presentation with Garda, Umar, and Leon. Their talk is about transformation of public squares into zones for regeneration. Let me introduce our three panelists. So we have Garda, who's an artist that has collaborated with architects since 2001 in the health and hospitality sectors, focusing on environments that enhance human well-being. Her practice has evolved from interiors to public spaces, where she seeks to transform them into places of power through her ongoing project, One Moment to Breathe. Umar is a Pakistani-born architect specializing in integrated urbanism and sustainable design. He's now based in Germany, and having first met Garda while both working on community projects in Sinai in Egypt, he brings an urbanistic perspective into the regeneration of public spaces within the One Moment to Breathe initiative. Leon is the director of the Galerie Lindenplatz in Liechtenstein, which partnered with Garda Alexander on One Moment to Breathe and hosted her solo exhibitions in July 2025. He's a curator and a collaborator, and he will moderate the conversation between both of them, offering insights from the gallery's engagement with the project. I would invite all of you to come here. I'm gonna add this chair as well. Yeah.
Thank you for your introduction. So,
Hello.
thanks again. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. It's a pleasure to have you both here, Garda Alexander and Umar Naeem. Our today's theme is the transformation of public squares or spaces into regeneration zones. Garda, let me begin with you. Your installation at Palazzo Mora is titled One Moment to Breathe. You describe your work as creating oases of regeneration. Could you explain how this essence of nature can actually be translated into an artistic form of urban space?
Yes, of course. Thank you all to be here. I'm honored to share my project and ideas. The installation, One Moment to Breathe, was conceived less an exhibition, it's more an experiential space. It invites visitors to journey through 4 projects, 3 realized art projects, interventions in Switzerland, Ireland, and Egypt, and 1 virtual concept envisioned for Venice. Each of these works embodies the idea of an oasis of regeneration, a place where one can pause, breathe, and reconnect. It also brings to awareness how important it is to care for nature and its resources. Nature shapes emotional, sensory, and energetic experience, and so should space. That is what I wanted to make tangible here at One Moment to Breathe. Through image, through film, through form, color, sound, and spoken word. To answer the question, let's go shortly into the essence drawn out of the science of biogeometry. The founder is Dr. Ibrahim Karim. To give you a framework, the design science of biogeometry explores how form, color, perception, proportion, sound interact with biological systems, both human and non-human. It shows us that harmony can be cultivated intentionally through careful and responsive design. And here is the essence. One Moment to Breathe addresses the power of objective nature and how we can transform the qualities of subjective nature into urban spaces. In urban design, this invites a new layer of inquiry. How do we read the city, not just visually or functionally, but also energetically? This reading can then inform a design language. From there, it's a matter of consciously balancing these elements through choice of materials, colors, shapes, and forms, as I said. The combination of applying Far Eastern analysis techniques, biogeometry, and the quality of physics with my medical background and art brings a multidisciplinary perspective into the spatial design process. By doing so, we can move toward creating environments that are not only sustainable, but also regenerative, supporting both ecological systems and human well-being in a deeper sense. Umar will expand the idea of regeneration through social and ecological perspective. So when I speak of bringing the quality of nature into the city, it's about tuning the space so that it resonates with us on multiple levels. Regeneration zones can help alleviate the stress and pressures people carry on their daily lives, but cities too. Overcrowding, pollution, economic inequality, and deteriorating infrastructure, they weigh heavily on the social and physical fabric as geopathic and electromagnetic stress. So, we can name these circumstances or these facts a silent crisis of disharmony.
Thank you, Arda, for the insight to your current exhibition at Palazzo Mora. Umar, I'd like to bring you into the conversation. Garda has framed the challenges of our cities as silent crises, using the lens of resonance and regeneration. Could you elaborate on your definition of this crisis and identify a few issues that we are facing these days in our public spaces?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Leon. So Garda's work on resonance and regeneration gets to the very heart of what I call this crisis of disconnection. So in our hyper-digitized world, and the cities are growing at a fast pace of urbanization, we live in a profound paradox. We are most connected generation in the history, yet we suffer from the deep detachment from our environment, from our cities, from our communities, and also from the nature. So the most critical consequence is what Robert Pyle termed as extinction of experience. This extinction of experience contains a feedback loop. So it begins with the decline of nature and its qualities in the cities, which reduces the opportunity to experience urban nature in the city. This loss of opportunity further alters the attitudes and creates the indifference in the society as a whole. And with that, we lose our capacity to feel and care about the nature. So this changes in attitudes also changes the orientation of citizens towards nature, and it leads to the further decision that degrades the nature in our cities, so which also consequently alters and affects the quality of life. Because of this feedback loop that I explained, we are constantly losing harmony with nature in our cities. So for me, public spaces are the arenas where this feedback loop plays out the most. And because these public spaces are not just voids, they are living systems which have multitude of embedded layers. And we have the chance to intervene into these layers and break that loop to avoid the extinction of experience.
I would like to focus on this layer kind of thing. Umar, you've described public spaces as living systems more than just the void between the buildings. Could you outline these dimensions for us, these different layers?
Yeah, certainly. To understand public space, we must see it as a living system, which is composed of interconnected dimensions. For example, spatial, how accessible it is, what are the forms of enclosure, and what are the proportions to it. Economic, how the public space is connected to the wider metabolic system of the city. And environmental, what are the environmental qualities like air qualities and thermal comfort. And social, to what extent the community is being involved in taking care of the public space, or to what extent the public space is allowing human interaction. And then we have ecological layer. It means to what extent it is allowing more than human interaction and non-human interactions. And then we have the sensory and energetic layer, which Garda will explain more in detail. It means like, how do we feel in that space? So over to you, Garda.
Thank you so much, Umar. And that sensory layer you mentioned is exactly what I would bring in the artistic dimension, as also the invisible layer based on the law of resonance. Artistic intervention can play a key role in the context of regeneration zones because they expand the functional requirements to include a cultural, a sensory, and an atmospheric dimension. In doing so, they precisely create those topographies of pause and regeneration. Form, color, movement, sound interact with biological systems and environmental energies. So harmony can be cultivated intentionally through design, as we mentioned. As humans, we constantly interact with these forces. Let me give you an example. The human eye perceives electromagnetic radiation approximated between 380 and 750 nanometers. This range is called visible light, and we perceive it as color. So we perceive air vibration as sound. Each senses responds to energy, and all these energies are interconnected through resonance.
And I would like to add one more thing, that public spaces that we have in our cities, they do not fail due to the lack of design or due to the how it's designed. They often fail, or they often get negatively affected due to the ignorance of this multi-layered dimension or functionality. So, for example, public space can be accessible, it can be socially active, but if it's ecologically deprived and sensorially jarring, it can easily lose its capacity to be truly regenerative. So when all of these layers are combined and they are woven together consciously, only then we can move from having a mere functional space towards more regenerative and breathing urban system.
So thank you so much. So we had this approach now, the theoretical approach based on your analysis or for your analysis. But how do we begin to heal our urban environments? What are the recent working models for regeneration and healing public spaces? If we can start maybe with, Umar, maybe you can have a point on that as well.
Yeah. So, thank you, Leon, and that's a very critical question. And in my opinion, once we start to read the city as a living organism, then public spaces becomes a very vital organ of that living system. While large-scale master plans, they have its own place and they are being practiced all over the world, I believe in more agile and potent strategy, and what is known as urban acupuncture. So this is more effective in the cases of systemic neglect and environmental stress. Urban acupuncture is an intervention which focuses on small, precise, and targeted micro interventions when they are applied in the areas of neglect or their stress. If they are done collaboratively and consciously and having response to the dynamics of urban space, they can create a ripple effect that might have like positive impact on the entire urban system. So in my practice, I usually work on urban ecological acupuncture, where I deal with nature-based adaptation responding to the deteriorating conditions of the site in urban space.
Garda, do you have a take on that as well?
And as an artist, I believe in critical analysis of the dynamics of space. My analytical work is rooted, as I said, in ancient wisdom and contemporary knowledge of biogeometry, where I aim to intervene in the urban system through the concept of sensory acupuncture, you can name it.
So you both actually, although coming from different backgrounds, you both emphasize the strategy of urban acupuncture. Garda, you use the term sensory acupuncture, and Umar, you with urban ecological acupuncture. What does this approach look like in practice? Could you each share a specific example of a small-scale intervention which actually had this transformative effect on the place? Maybe we start with you, Garda.
I like to describe my land art intervention as a form of sensory acupuncture. Art, in this sense, acts as the needle that activates hidden energies of a place and pinpoint power spots. The project Teria in Egypt, in Sinai, was a response to broader issue of plastic pollution in Egypt. And as these forms of intoxications are produced in urban areas, the remote areas, especially the desert, are bearing this burden of this upheaval. Over more than 20 years, I collaborate with the local Bedouins of South Sinai, and I know them very well, and I know also what challenges they are confronted. And I propose to realize my art intervention, especially to honor their heritage and raise ecological and environmental awareness. The intervention is linked also symbolically to the Hathor temple, the only pharaonic temple on the peninsula, which anchors cultural memory within the landscapes. I highlighted this natural power spot in the bottom of the temple and transformed it in a zone of reflection. In this time, there have been a few tents what gave shelter for tourists to come and where the Bedouins give them food and where they could stay overnight. The transformation for this natural power spot into a pausing, reconnecting place for the visitors became, how to say, the people like it very much, and I will show what the little intervention, what ripple effect caused. For example, there was a very educational part. The Bedouins get awareness that is very important to teach their children. So they brought in every Friday, this is the Sunday in their culture, the children, what is in the nearest village, Serabit El Hadem is quite deep in the desert, and the next village is maybe 40 minutes away. And they bring it in and they collect the plastic, what the wind blows in, and the fathers teach them what this can affect, for example, can do to the animals. For example, when the camels eat the plastic, the stomach closes and the animals die. Yeah.
Thank you, Garda, for the insight of your project with the sensory acupuncture. Umar, what would be an example of your urban ecological approach in urban acupuncture?
Thank you, Leon. So I would like to complement Garda's intervention with one example where we intervened in the urban environment with physical and objective form of nature. This project, what I call as urban ecological acupuncture, we planted a micro-urban forest in the midst of Pakistan's second largest city, which is Lahore. This project was implemented in the center of a commercial area. Our approach was bottom-up intervention using a strategy known as Miyawaki micro-urban forestation technique. As Garda harnessed the quality of subjective form of nature through biogeometry to produce the condition of calm and pausing moment. In this project, we utilized the objective form of nature, as per to say forest as architecture, where these dense plantation, they form natural and green enclosure of varied scale, what we call them as living rooms in the dense urban fabric. These spaces offered essential environmental comfort and psychological safety that was previously missing from that urban site. So due to the high positive reception of this micro strategy of healing environment through Miyawaki urban forestation technique, it triggered urban greening movement across the city. And within a span of 2 years, 52 micro-urban forests using the similar technique of Miyawaki forestation were done in the urban areas, in the urban area of Lahore. So this demonstrates that how a single targeted act of ecological healing, if it's done collaboratively, we can create a network of cascading benefits, cascading benefit on the entire urban network. Now reflecting back at the process, what we did, and if we are able to combine both forms of strategies nature as an experience that Garda is working on, and nature as ecology. Only then we can produce or we can make public spaces that are not beneficiary for the human and non-human, but also it could have no beneficial effect for the entire urban environment.
Thank you so much for your explanation to that. So both of you have the idea that ecological acupuncture, but also sensual acupuncture work side by side. Now, back from the natural arena into the urban arena, Garda, in the San Zaccaria project, could you explain how you analyze a site to achieve a vision of a regenerative space?
Of course. Timeless Circle, the San Zaccaria project, emerged from a research initiative with European Cultural Academy 2023 and was inspired by the work of Marko Bugacnik. His studies revealed energetic connections between the three churches, San Zaccaria, Madonna della Salute, and San Salvador. You can see it on the graphic. Following the insights, I traced these lines myself and realized that Venice was not only designed strategically, but also with a deep awareness of energy and the invisible layer of city planning. The placement of its sacred sites seems to follow what today we might call ley lines or grid lines. My intention was to highlight this wisdom beneath the visible, to make people aware that city making once involved more than functionality. It carried layers of meaning and harmony. At Campo San Zaccaria, where I created virtually Timeless Circle, there I identified also an existing energetic node and reimagined it as a place of pause and reflection rather than a transit, a regenerative point within the city that you also can sit and pause outside and not just inside the church. This method is based on the research with reading the form figuration, the landscape, the elemental forces, relation connected to materials, colors, and directions. In essence, the process combines analysis with artistic intuition. The goal is not only to design a space, but to make it felt, to create harmony through resonance. Designing with this awareness means designing for balance, where the visible and invisible, the material and the energetic all support life.
So you as an artist, and in regards of that project, this actually leads us directly to the role of art in urban planning. Garda and Umar, you've made the case that regeneration zones are essential infrastructures and not luxury goods. So how can art and architecture work together to scale up projects like One Moment to Breathe from isolated moments into city-wide networks of these zones? Adam, maybe you can start with the answer.
So this was Timeless Circle at San Zaccaria.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it didn't work. And the next one.
Yeah. Too often, art is added at the end as an afterthought. But regeneration zones are essential. They're urban therapy. They help individuals relieve stress, and they help cities themselves to breathe. Pollution, overcrowding, fragmentation, city suffers, as we mentioned before, as we pinpointed out. When we weave art and nature as quality of nature into urban planning from the beginning, we create spaces that heal both people and place. Art here is not embellishment, it is a catalyst. And together with the integration of life force, we create these zones where people and city can regenerate. As a collaborative partner with architects and urban planners, we shape and enhance the design process that prioritize human and environmental well-being.
Thank you, Garda. And Umar, how do you reflect on this, combining art and architecture?
Okay, so for me to truly heal our urban environment and mainstream the concept of regenerative zones, firstly, we need to discard our old linear model where planner decides, or architect and urbanist, they design, and contractor builds. The new paradigm must be more integrative and non-linear, starting with the transdisciplinary actions and disciplinary collaborations. This means bringing alongside of architects and urban planners, bringing ecologists, sociologists, anthropologists, artists, and other professionals. And most importantly, the community stakeholders. They all should come to the table before the design begins. Their collective action must map everything from the movement pattern of the existing site to the sensory landscape of the area. If we are able to identify these intricate details and the nuances that are present on the site, only then we can achieve the zones of regenerations in public spaces.
Thank you, Umar. So now, Umar and Garda, my key takeaway is that regeneration of public space is more than enhancing its functionality. It's a form of acupuncture, whether it be it sensory or urban ecological, that can heal our cities. To conclude, if the audience remembers one thing, what is the essential impulse of one moment to breathe, both as a metaphor but also as a real project that you hope will stay with the audience?
As we begin, I'd like to open up a space for reflection, a moment to consider something we often overlook, the importance of how we shape and design our surroundings. Everything that surrounds us has an effect on us. Every shape, every color, every material, every angle, every proportion, even the sounds around us, they all influence how we feel, how we think, and even how we behave. Most of the time, this influence happens unconsciously. We simply move through our environments without realizing the impact they're having on us. But what if we started paying attention? But if we brought awareness to the simple but powerful fact that our surroundings are constantly shaping us just as we shape them? I would close with this reflection.
Thank you, Garda. Some words from you, Umar?
Yeah, I'd like to add that when we are able to bring the essence of projects like One Moment to Breathe into a broader spectrum of public sphere and also layer it up with the other dimensions of ecology and social dynamics and look at how the economic and other forms of metabolism is working in the city. Only then the public space becomes an invitation to reconnect with nature and also to reconnect with earth, also to reconnect with each other. Because as we believe that regeneration begins when we create the moment in our cities simply to breathe.
Thank you, Umar. Thank you, Garda.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leon, Garda, and Omar for the fantastic presentation. Any questions in the room? If not, I have a question here in mind. So what do you think, so again, you're showing us all the different layers that are happening inside the public space, right? So also the amalgamation of different disciplines that can come together in this. What do you think are the obstacles in achieving this in every other public space that we have in the world? So what based on your experience?
I think it's one obstacle will be to bring everybody on the table. To bring the multi-layered, what Umar also pointed out, to bring everybody on the table and the openness to really willing to work together, but also to see the well-being in an important point, not just for the individuals, but also for the city. I think this is intentionally, what intention is behind. And if we bring the professionals on the table who have this intention in mind for the human well-being, then everything is possible, in my mind.
Omar, what do you think?
So I think there should be a framework to have a common vision that should be understood by all of the professionals, because every profession has a different language. They might have a similar vision, but to achieve that vision, we need to have like a common language and a common understanding that needs to be not only understood by the professionals, but also by the community. So working with the community, I think the most challenging and difficulty that we usually face is about the terminologies, is about how we can explain our ideas to the community and how to understand their ideas, because like they are living in that space and they have their certain intelligence that we need to understand and also integrate into the projects.